how long that's gonna last, but I think that people should just plan for the worst, especially like under this political climate. We see that things are it's causing a lot of uncertainty. I know we've been saying that a lot lately, but I feel like that's the word that fits this best. We're uncertain what that a future holds, so just make sure you're prepared for any climate, and that's the most important part.
Hey man, things have gotten more and more uncomfortable. I think that right now, like you said, just expect more uncomfortable news to come out, more changes that we haven't experienced in our lifetime. I can't say for people that are older than us, but these are the type of things that we haven't experienced yet. These are new, right? We understood the system one way, and now the system is being flipped and spun in a way that we have to just adjust to. Back. Welcome back, people, man, to another episode of Investors Playbook. As always, you have your co-hosts Deshaun and Cornell, um, coming off of a beautiful weekend. Um, but as you all know, the information does not stop flowing. So, with this episode, given that we are just coming from a large trip, well, some people are coming from a large trip. I'm still on one right now. What we want to really do and talk about is how does one even plan, right? I recently got married a couple of days ago. Appreciate that. Appreciate that. We had a destination wedding. We had like almost like 70 people out here, friends, family, loved ones. Cornell, appreciate you again for being my best man. It meant a lot, my boy. Um, but trips like that are not cheap. You have to make sure that you are preparing correctly for them. We gave people a lot of time, but that doesn't always mean that people are going to prepare given the amount of time that they have. So we definitely want to talk about that in this episode and some of the changes that Donald Trump has executed. We want to dive into that as well. We want to make sure that you all are um, staying aware of all things happening. So first things first, man. Cornell, when it comes to like, just give me an example. What was I guess you could talk about the one for coming out here to Mexico, but what was a big trip that you recently had to plan for, or even just like an expense, right? And how did you prepare for
Uh, really just and I wouldn't change it for the world, but just coming to, first going to LA for your first ceremony and then coming to Cancun. Beautiful weddings, man, both of them. And really I'm happy to be a part of them. To be honest, man, I felt honored, to be honest. So, but when it comes to these things, because everybody has people in their life that no matter what's going on, you're not going to miss the important days. So when that happens, you have to plan accordingly. And hopefully, like as you did, Deshaun, you gave me an ample amount of time to figure out like how much I needed to pay, what I was going to do when I get there. So I was able to plan ahead, which is the most important part. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do my due diligence, see how much my flight costs, see what activities I'm going to be wanting to do when I get there, and then I'm going to calculate my estimated expense. I might add a little extra just in case cuz you don't want to go there and not have any money to spend. So then I'm going to look at how many months I have until that event happens, and then just divide that by the total. And then now you know how much you need to put into your savings account each and every month in order to have the amount that you want when that trip comes up.
bro? I mean, I couldn't have said it better myself, right? Um, we know that life is not getting any cheaper. That includes saving money for a trip, going on a trip, whether you want to purchase a home, purchase a car, whatever asset you want to try and grab, or if you want to start a business. All of this is going to be more, it's getting more and more expensive. So you have to be a bit more strategic when it comes to these large expenses, especially if you plan out and next year, let's say March of 2026, like we already talked about Japan, 2026,
Right.
right? We can literally start preparing for that right now. Okay. And the craziest thing is if the trip doesn't happen, then we have a good chunk of change that we can do a lot with, right? But if the trip does happen, and most times when we plan trips, they do, then we are thoroughly prepared. We're not needing to put money on a credit card that we don't have the money to pay off. Um, so, a lot of what you're describing, and if people listening have not heard of this term before, it's called a sinking fund. That's literally what you're describing, right? It is a preferably a savings account, something that has some type of interest that can grow or interest that can help your money grow. But the purpose of a sinking fund is to have something, well, put money aside for some large expense, right? Like, for example, March 2025 is when I got married. We all came to Mexico. So when I let people know in December of 23, right, or January of 24, right after I proposed, it could have been that moment. This is the hotel we're staying at. We sent the information out at least by like February, March, giving people a solid 12 months. And in those 12 months, doing something as simple as, like you said, how long is it going to be until this trip happens? 12 months? How much money am I going to need for this trip? This amount. Put that money aside every single month, right? And what I think would be an even better idea, we all have credit cards, not all, but a lot of people have credit cards in which they get points for. So don't just take the money out the sinking fund. Don't just like withdraw it from your savings. Swipe your credit card. Get those points, but then use that money from your sinking fund to pay off that credit or pay off that debt that you picked up from swiping that card. Now you're getting points from swiping your card. You have already been, you know, saving micro amounts for this large trip. You setting yourself up really good, and you can actually go and enjoy your vacation, and not worry about like, oh, I'm swiping my card too much, or going into debt in order to be able to spend time with an event, or if you just want to go on vacation, right? So it's very important that if you are planning a trip, to ensure that you're putting money away, and then also it's just like make sure that you have the means to go on said trip, right? I know you mentioned like there are certain things that there's just no way you're gonna miss. There are a lot of trips that you might get invited to that you don't have to go on. You know what I mean? And I think that that also is important. Figure out what trips really matter, right? Making a choice on how you're gonna spend your money, right? Uh, and that goes back a lot to what we say. What are your goals? Right. Is your goal to just go and enjoy vacation? Is your goal to, be there for someone that you care about? Is your goal to buy a house? Maybe you don't need to be taking trips at this moment. Maybe you make a sinking fund to increase your funds so that you can have a down payment for a home. So it's a lot of different things you can do with this sinking fund idea in mind. In a lot of ways, you can really set yourself up for success. You know what I mean? Yeah. So essentially, just adding that to your budget
Yeah.
and putting it in a place that can grow, like a high yield savings account. And we've talked about high yield savings accounts enough on this podcast, right? Anything more than 4%, it exists. Search for it, Google it. Uh, yeah. So I think that.
Right.
Go ahead,
And
go ahead. What are you about to say?
and for our more advanced people, you know, like myself and Deshaun, we like those credit card points. All right. So we'll save up the amount of money, but when it comes time to actually pay for the trip, I'm gonna use my credit card. I'm gonna get those points. But the thing is, when you're doing that, you have to know that you have the enough discipline to pay it off. So a lot of people they're financing their travel lifestyle on credit cards. They're doing this affirm, this buy now pay later, and then it's eating up at their entire income. People have to stop doing that. If you can't afford it, don't buy it.
Yeah,
If
it's
you can't
really as
afford
simple
it,
as
don't buy it. Right? Because people are letting vacation affect their livelihood. And if you think about it, the grand scheme of it is crazy. Sometimes people are going to be able to do things that you can't do. It's a part of life.
that, for sure.
So
Definitely.
you know
Nah.
your situation. Don't
Mhm.
let anybody talk you out of what you need to do for your situation. because their situation is not like yours.
Don't try and count other people's pockets. Don't try and keep up with the Joneses. Um, and then again, just let you understand what your priorities are. Like, what are your true goals? Because saying that you want a vacation every year, but sweating bullets every time it's like coming down to you paying off credit cards, and you don't understand why you're still in debt. I mean, sometimes the answer is kind of obvious, right? You might just be spending too much money. Just chill sometimes. Like, if that's okay. If anything, use that to build a sinking fund so that you don't have to put money on that credit card, um, and let it sit on that credit card for so long. Think the idea, and anyone can start a sinking fund, and you can start it with any amount. We say the same thing with investing. You can start with $5. You do the same exact thing with a sinking fund. But this one is less long term. Usually, sinking funds are between like 6 months, and I think most times like between 6 months and 2 years, depending on how much money you're saving. But it has a goal, right? Which means once that date is there, the sinking fund should be drained, whether it's to pay off the credit card that you used for the purchase. Um, and if it's like a down payment, then yeah, you can't put a down payment on the credit card. So that's going to be the money from the sinking fund. So yeah, you have to really understand what your goals are and what your purpose is for this sinking fund. And then I think Cornell, the word you use that sits the best is discipline, right? You're constantly paying monthly for, things like entertainment, um, gym membership, candle subscriptions, coffee subscriptions, like clothing subscriptions. There's so many things that you pay monthly for. Pay yourself every month, right? I think that's going to be important too. So yeah, definitely wanted to just hit that. It seemed right around the perfect time because that is definitely what me and Ashley did, right? Like, we knew that this trip was coming up. So we opened up a high yield savings account and both put money into that high yield savings account all of last year, right? And we're good. We can relax on this trip. You know what I mean? Because we planned for this trip to happen a year ago. So, or throughout last year. So yeah.
And I feel like this is a good way to segue because um, people have to realize, and this is also why you want your expenses low in general, because you never know what you're gonna want to do or what you're gonna need to do. Like how right now, I don't know if everybody's seeing, but Donald Trump is actually suspending, well, he has suspended the income driven repayment plan, which if he succeeds in getting rid of this or whatever he's trying to do, because I don't think he's made his intentions clear, this is going to inflate a lot of people's expenses. With income driven repayment plan, our payments are based on our income. If this is no longer a thing, this means that our payment is subject to our true balance. So if you owe $50,000, you're gonna have to pay a payment that's based on that 50,000 with your income not being a factor. If you owe 100,000, which is highly possible, you're gonna have to pay based on that 100,000 and not your income. So I don't know the motive with this, but I do feel like a lot of people are already struggling in the economy, and to do something like this, it's kind of hard to see the intent. And is the intent positive? How could it be?
Right. I truly don't really understand the, I mean, I'm imagining, right? If I can pick a straw, I'm imagining that his goal is to grow funds, maybe repay some or bring back some of the money that has been borrowed from the US. But then it's like the Department of Education and these personal companies, are they the ones that are like, how does that trace to the money from the government? And is that part of it? I mean, things like Nelnet and government loans, maybe he just wants to bring money back into those. organizations, because right now people have been on income-driven repayment like since before COVID. It's been like almost 5 years, right? And maybe he's saying that that's like there's no way that their income is still the same. So either recertify or something like that. But now he's talking about taking it away completely, which means people are about to get hit with a crazy amount of money that they're going to have to pay back with. And the only thing I can imagine is that he's trying to get money to come into like the Department of Education or that organization. Just bring money from the people, have people pay more money so that they can replenish that. But the ins and outs of it, I don't know.
So,
That's the
do you think that is people being too far removed? Like, just people never having had to struggle? Because, yeah, I understand what he's trying to do on the back end, but I don't think he's looking at the damage that he's going to do
oh,
on the front end. You
it's
see what
gonna
I'm
be
saying?
bad, bro. Yeah, because one, people are already struggling to do things like pay down credit card debt, try and purchase a home, and then get a mortgage that they can't afford, get a car that they can't afford. Um, and I mean, now people keep talking about eggs and how expensive that is. Like, it just never stops, right? How expensive things are now. So to add on this, it's not even a new expense. It will be a new expense, but it's transforming something that people have gotten a bit more used to paying and just making it even that much more difficult, right?
Right.
And I don't know if he's trying to fracture like the economy. I'm not really sure, but it would be different. It's like, hey, we're going to get rid of income driven. Um, no, and then the more crazier thing is that he's getting rid of people's jobs. Like he fires a bunch of people and then say, by the way, if you owe, it's not based on your income. So even if you don't have a job, we're basing it on the amount of money you took out. You get what I'm saying? Like people who literally just lost their income, their livelihood, who probably were banking on, I don't have a job, so I can't pay my student loans right now. I have no income. He's taking that away too. So he's hitting people with the double whammy. A couple of people, like a lot of government workers who just lost their job, they're like, yeah, no, by the way, yeah, you're gonna have to find a way to pay back those student loans like
He fi-
regularly now.
he fired about 1,200 people from the Department of Student Aid, which
Yeah,
is crazy. Even if it doesn't go through, are there enough people there to support student loan borrowers?
right. I think that's a whole another rabbit hole, man. Because him getting rid of a lot of people and like right around tax time too, right? They're like attacking the IRS. You're seeing that in the headlines a lot now. Trump and Musk and the Doge organization is coming for the Internal Revenue Service. So you're talking about people who assist with the flow of people doing their tax return and that workforce being reduced. So yeah, I'm not really sure what the end goal is, man. It just seems like a lot of fracturing right around the time where one
People need it most.
U.S. citizens are crying for help, right? Like they
Mhm.
are literally saying we're not making enough money. Everything is getting more expensive. You're taking away jobs. We have to file these taxes, but we don't really know how to anymore. And now things like student loans, which help us get more money, we have to pay those back in full because you're removing the assistance that we got for the assistance that we got. I mean, it's like, what exactly is
The
the end
assistance
goal?
that we got. That's
I need, I need, I need some assistance paying for this assistance, and you
yeah.
taking that away too. So, so it's like, yeah, I don't know. It's very interesting. We, but that's why we bring this stuff to you all, man. We want to make sure that you're aware of what's happening. And a couple episodes ago, we talked about if you go to the student aid website, that button or that the ability to do it
Application
online had been removed. The application now you can't do a paper application. It's just
suspended.
suspended. It's done. Suspended. Not I shouldn't say done. It's suspended. He's working on trying to get it removed completely. But right now you aren't able to do it. So if you are on an income driven repayment plan, I think one of the biggest things that you want to do is figure out when that recertification period is, right?
Mhm.
I don't know how long people, when they get approved for income-driven repayment, is it like 1 year? Is that kind of how long it is?
It's usually 1 year, and right now it's looking like they're extending forbearances for people. I don't know how long that's gonna last, but I think that people should just plan for the worst, especially like under this political climate. We see that things are it's causing a lot of uncertainty. I know we've been saying that a lot lately, but I feel like that's the word that fits this best. We're
Yeah.
uncertain what that the future holds, so just make sure you're prepared for any climate, and that's the most important part.
Hey man, things have gotten more and more uncomfortable. I think that right now, like you said, just expect more uncomfortable news to come out, more changes that we haven't experienced in our lifetime. You know, I can't say for people that are older than us, but these are the type of things that we haven't experienced yet. These are new, right? We understood the system one way, and now the system is being flipped and spun in a way that we have to just adjust to for now. We see the path that he's taking. We see the actions that he's taking, um, and we don't see a ton. We see a lot of people saying that no, this is not okay, and like they're saying things like this needs to stop, but the actions are still getting approved. Right? Those executive orders were sent out. We're seeing companies change how they interact with certain organizations. We're seeing studentaid.gov remove the abilities for you. Like it's happening. It's not a he's not barking. He is biting. Okay. So we have to adjust how we move. We can't just do things without thinking about the tomorrow.
Mm.
And a lot of this is affecting people's pockets more than anything.
Yep.
Yeah. So gotta stay on top of it, man.
So
Um, but yeah, bro. All right.
I'm glad that we were able to, just relay this information. I know that everybody doesn't watch the news, so make sure you continue to watch, and we'll continue to bring the information to you. And make sure to check us out at Investors Playbook LLC on Instagram, and also join the Facebook group.
Yes, sir. All right, man. Look, we're gonna catch you all next week. I am on my honeymoon, but the show does not stop. We still gonna bring you this news. We're still gonna drop some education for you. So, as always, appreciate y'all watching. We're gonna catch y'all next week.
Peace.
So.